Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing my beloved green-black Turbodepths, but we're trying out some quite different approaches in this deck to what we would normally play from the stock list that's on my Patreon and all that I play quite often. So for those who aren't familiar, this deck is you play Dark Depths, you remove all the counters with Hexmage and you have a 20/20, and that's enough to kill your opponent with. Alternatively, Thespian stage can copy Dark Depths and give you a 20/20, again, enough to kill your opponent with. We've got a bunch of tutors, we've got a bunch of different protections, and we've got some fast mana. But where we've made the changes today is in the fast mana section. Normally we would have 4 Elvish Spirit Guides, but I'm trying something a little bit different here, because Elvish Spirit Guide accelerates you 1 mana. But Exploration, if you play this on turn 1, it accelerates you an additional mana on turn 1, but can also accelerate you by +1 mana or +1 land on turn 2, which is quite an important break point because Dark Depths, Thespian stage, and 2 lands is enough to make a 20/20. You don't need your Yavimaya there. So this can just speed us up a whole turn compared to trying to do the turn 3 plan with Dark Depths, Thespian stage, and Yavimaya or Urborg. So in theory, Exploration can speed us up a turn with our deck and make us run a bit smoother. We are still running the fast mana of Lotus Petals because this allows us to have double petal Hexmage start, which is obviously very good. So this just gives us another way in to try and make our creatures quicker. But what it also allows us to do is play Life from the Loam, which is going to be a sort of protection spell in a weird way. Because what this means is if our Marrowlage gets dealt with normally in Turbodepths, it takes a while for us to rebuild sometimes. You know, maybe we'll have enough tutors or the things in hand that we can, redeploy it. But it can sometimes take a couple of turns to get those lands into play, to tap them, to activate them and all that. What Exploration plus Life from the Loam does is allow us to Life from the Loam back Thespian stage and Dark Depths and just put them both into play and maybe be ready to go off multiple turns in a row. So in theory, our plan against removal can be, we still have these Not of This World and this hand disruption to mess with it, but we can just redeploy the combo over and over again with Life from Below until our opponent doesn't have removal. So we're Turbo Depths, but we do have the ability to play a slightly longer game if necessary. So we can go through their removal instead of trying to go around it, if that makes sense. We can just absorb it and just keep redeploying the guy. That's kind of the plan here. What Life from Below also does is means that we're less cold to Wasteland because we can, rebuy our things. Life from the Loam, famously very good against people blowing up your lands. So we trimmed on 1 Pithing Needle because we are a Turbo Depths deck still. We do want to try and go off early, but the Pithing Needle we can cut that by 1 to bring in this extra Life from the Loam. Our other Elvish Spirit Guide is also a Life from the Loam, and we've trimmed 2 Duresses here. Put them into the sideboard for the extra Life from the Loam, and we're playing 1 more Boseiju, because Boseiju again is better when you're playing Life from the Loam, and we want more lands so that we can keep deploying them with Exploration. We have 26 lands in this list, which should be enough to get some joy off Exploration, and we're just going to see if Exploration is actually the best mana accelerant we can have here. Even though we're going turbo, this is normally something you'd see in like the traditional Landsy style decks, but we're going to try it in turbo and see how it feels, because if you don't try new stuff out, or old stuff I guess, or different stuff, let's say, if you don't try different stuff out, then you never learn anything and you never get to improve your decks because you're just stuck in a rut. So we're trying this out to see if this works. Another reason why I'm also interested in Exploration is because when the new Lord of the Rings Commander set comes out, there's a 1 mana protection spell for Marrowlage that's very, very strong. It's like Legolas's Swift Reflex or something like that. And that encourages us to have a spare mana around when we're trying to combo. So the Exploration can provide that spare mana by speeding up the lands that we can deploy. So we can have, let's say, Yavimaya, Dark Depths, Thespian stage, and any other land, and then we can cast that Reflexes on the turn that we make our 20/20. So we're kind of doing a little bit of testing for the future, but I'm pretty hopeful this Exploration plan is going to work. Sideboard-wise, what does this mean? It means that we don't need Steely Resolve in the sideboard because our plan for removal is to keep using Life from the Loam. And we can just keep buying it back, getting through all their Swords to Plowshares or whatever. So that's what that plan is. So because we don't need those Steely Resolves, we can then get the other Pithing Needle that we're missing, and the Duresses we're missing, and the Not of This World. So we can go up to the full copies of these if we want them. And obviously we've still got our Abrupt Decay, which is going to be slightly harder for us to cast without having Elvish Spirit Guide in our deck. which might come back to bite us. But again, that's why we have the additional Boseiju, so we only need 1 mana to blow up things like Blood Moon. And then we obviously have our Artifact Hate, which is pretty standard, and our Graveyard Hate too. So yeah, I've talked about this one for quite a bit. I think the changes here are really interesting, and I'm curious to see how they play out. And this is what the testing is all about, really, trying to find new ways of doing things. So, like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content and you want to see more. It really helps the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. And if you're interested in this deck in particular, I do have a lot of detail about it on my Patreon, as well as other Dark Depths type builds, mainly like Turbo Depths or sort of mid-rangey depths of different kinds. So if that's your jam, by all means check out the Patreon in the description below. And I'm going to stop talking on this deck tech and just jump right into playing some Legacy now. So let's go. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, we are into the first round. We have some decent redundancy here, but we do need another black source for this to actually do anything. This is an interesting one, actually, whether or not we should keep this. Any black source is good. Thespian stage is pretty good. Exploration is pretty reasonable. I think we are going to keep this one. We have less fast mana in terms of actual mana, but we can deploy more lands with an exploration here if we find one. Alright, so this looks like some sort of Delver matchup. So the Pithing Needle on... yeah, the Pithing Needle on Wasteland is going to be good here. That's going to be one of the things we want. We might not have a time to keep dredging and going round and round. We'll see. This has given us the option of doing the thing on turn 1, but if it goes wrong, we just get... oh no, this is doing the thing on turn 2, isn't it? Sorry. So we go and get ourselves a Swamp. We'll play a Pithing Needle. They're trying to see what our deck is doing, so they get more information about whether or not they want to counter this Pithing Needle. Also, we could name Mishra's Bauble, but that's not really what we're up for. Do I want to play this Lotus Petal? If our opponent is like a Jeskai build, which, you know, does appear every now and then they could Prismatic Ending it. So I don't think I want to do that. They can't Prismatic Ending and Wasteland. But if we hang this Lotus Petal out, it can get us. Daze is something I'm going to have to play around. So we got the Swamp there in case our opponent did interact with our Pithing Needle in terms of like Daze and things like that. Right, Ponder with the Dragon's Rage Channel on board. They put Scalding Tarn into their graveyard, so that's good for us. They didn't have the card they wanted on top. We still don't know what flavour of Delver this is, how far into other colours they are, or if they're just straight blue-red still. They did not shuffle their library. Okay, so they have a Wasteland here. Interesting. So in comes a little man. Let's play this out. Let's see if we can get ourselves a Hexmage here. Have to imagine there's a counterspell coming for this. Yep, there's a Daze. So I believe our opponent has a Brazen Borrower in hand as well. So we're going to play out this Dark Depths because they can't borrow and Wasteland in the same turn cycle yet. We do need another black source here. Maybe we're a bit hasty playing that one out, but I think that's fine. We are under a clock. We need to kind of make some things happen. There we go. There is an Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Let's have a Hexmage. We can play around Daze this time. We can get Force of Will here. We do have the Knot of this World as well to protect our creature. We don't have to do this now. We can do it as we see fit when the time arises. So the Wasteland is... maybe we're supposed to do this now, because if they Brazen Borrower, if we go to make this, in response they can borrow and then Wasteland us. So I think we make this in our opponent's upkeep. Because otherwise we are exposing ourselves to a potential blow if they have a land here. Seek the Beast. Let's see the Beast and how it's being sought. Let's see what they're getting out of it. They've also shown us that they're Rug now, which we could have guessed from this other Questing Druid. Alright, so they surveilled a Force of Will. They've got a Ponder. So I'm going to make this now. Well, they don't have any mana up. Their Dragon's Rage Channeler, unless they have a Murktide, will have to run into our Marit Lage here. Because it has to attack, but if they can remove the correct types out of their graveyard with a Murktide, then this doesn't have to attack, but then their Murktide has to block as well, which isn't great for them, but it's better than being dead. So there's the Ponder. We've got this Knot of this World sat in our hand, ready to go. Alright, they're off it. Excellent. So, I quite like Delver matchups in general. I don't know. We haven't seen stifles or anything, so that is something we might have to watch out for. Wasteland is definitely going to be a problem, so we're going to want these Pithing Needles. Not of This World is certainly an interesting one, as are these Duresses if we're trying to get through Counterspell Shield. So these are kind of the 4 cards I'm interested in right now. There's some merit to things like Abrupt Decay, but I don't think that's where I want to be. What are we trimming here is the question. I like the exploration here. Duress and Thoughtseize. The Thoughtseize might be a little bit of a liability given... Although the Thoughtseize can actually hit the Brazen Borrower, right? So I was going to say, given the ability for them to beat us down. Then you can probably trim one of the life from the Loams. That gives us a Pithing Needle. And if we want these, where are we going to fit them? Lotus Petal really helps us play around days and soft permissions, so I think that's a given. Can't really board out any of our tutors. So we're probably looking at this. Pretty much the same main deck. We could trim a Boseiju for a Duress. Don't mind that. I guess we didn't really want the Bojuka Bog either. Like, yes, it does do stuff here. But if we're fetching for the Bojuka Bog, then things have already gone wrong. And sure, that's fine. I think the Duresses and Thoughtseize and stuff are just better. This does not have access to Dark Depths, so we cannot keep this. Our opponent might be running things like Submerge, so we need to keep that in mind in terms of what we're doing with our green sources. Exploration, but no lands. That's an interesting one, isn't it? This doesn't find the things we're looking for. Are we going to 4 cards? So we've got, what, 4, 8, 12 hits, as well as Loam, which can kind of get us there eventually. So that's 14 hits. That's 1 in 4 cards to start off, but we've already taken 7 off of that. So that's 1 in 3 cards. What are we keeping with this hand? If we were to keep 5. We don't need the Ghost Quarter. So we'll probably just get rid of these 2 if we keep this hand. I really don't want to keep this hand without access to Dark Depths, but we're already on 5. Sure, I'm going to keep this. I normally don't advise people to keep any hands without Dark Depths then, or access to Dark Depths. But we have a pretty strong defensive hand here. I have protection from Wasteland, protection from their bounce spells or whatever they have. And we have the Hexmage, so let's see if this pans out for us. Now, the problem is if we draw like a tutor, we're not necessarily able to get our tutor to resolve because we don't have any discard to punch a hole in our opponent's hand. Alright, we do have a hold. But I think what we want to do here still is cast this Pithing Needle. And we do want to play this off the Urborg in case we get a Dark Depths and we want to go for it. Okay, sure. We're not going to pay for this. I think our opponent has a Wasteland in hand. So the other option there is to get a Bayou. I don't think we can afford to get... Alright, sure. That's fine. I don't think we can afford to get a basic Swamp there. So this has to be a Bayou. Do we think our opponent's got another Wasteland? Maybe. I'd rather hold up this crop rotation as a counter spell for Wasteland. Because we don't need to Thoughtseize. We're not going off now anyway, so we've got time. If we Thoughtseize there and then they Wasteland us, we're basically in the dirt. So, okay. We have to do the same play again. We're not under pressure yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they didn't play a Murktide if they had one. A Lotus Petal. Let's see if this resolves. I would like to Thoughtseize my opponent here. Cracking a Flooded Strand here for a Volcanic Islands. This could be a Brainstorm to hide stuff. Could be a counter spell. We'll see. Could be a Veil of Summer. A Daze. Do I want to pay for this? No, I don't think so. Yeah, we kind of need to draw some of our lands here. I guess we did board out a couple, so it's kind of on me a little bit here. Don't think we should have boarded out the Boseiju, really. Alright. Another Volk. You can see they're going to finally start deploying threats. A Murktide region. There's a threat. Okay, so now the timescale of what we're doing here has moved up significantly. A Thespian's Stage. Okay. That's not nothing. So we need to Duress them this turn and clear the way for our crop rotation to do its thing. Just a lightning bolt. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So we have crop rotation. We need to find another land ideally. So we know what they drew this turn. There's an island. So they're going to have a mystery card in hand after our upkeep here. If we take 6, we can afford to take that again. They're probably just going to be doing Seek the Beast stuff as well. which is face up, so at least we get to see what we're playing around. A Verdant Catacombs. Okay, I'm down for this. Let's go and get ourselves probably another Bayou here. I'm going to go for this Hexmage. We know they don't have a blue card in hand to go with their, if they've drawn a Force of Will. So we're relatively safe apart from things like Fluster. So we pass here, and they're going to cast Seek the Beast at the end step, and then in response we will crop rotate. Let's see what they get, and we're going to do this in their upkeep. 2 cards have entered the exile zone. Let's see what they are. Is that the questing and that? Okay, sure. So let's do this in their upkeep to dodge Wasteland. Alright, so now we have a Knot of this World to protect. The Murktide Regent is going to be back on chump blocks. Seek the Beast. You can keep seeking Brainstorm, sure. That's going to let them move some stuff around a reasonable amount, but they won't be able to cast a bounce spell on our Merit Lage unless they find a land and a bounce spell. And we can pay around days. So they're going to need land, bounce spell, and like 2 cards. So that's going to be 4-card hand. So they're not going to be able to do it because they're only going to have 3 cards in hand after this Brainstorm. So they can have a daze, but we can beat the daze. So if they have a Brazen Borrower here, we should be alright. Unless they have some weird channel thing. But we can counter channel actually with Not of This World. I'm trying to think what the problem. I'm not sure how we lose this one. I guess if they try and bounce our guy. Okay, so not bouncing our guy this time. So we're on chump blocks with Murktide. So if we draw the Sejiri Steppe, we can just win this turn. Right, I think the Murktide is staying home here. So now we have 2 mana, so we can beat double days. Thoughtseize. I don't think that's going to be relevant here. Sure. We are going to fire this Thoughtseize off anyway, but I don't think this is going to make the difference here. I'm a little bit worried, I guess, about Submerge plus Flusterstorm. So they should have hidden the card that can bounce our Merit Lage if they had one on top of their library. So this shouldn't make a difference. What it might do is clear away like a Force of Will that will stop our Not of This World resolving. Alright, they didn't have it, so there we go. I do genuinely like the Delver matchup with TURBODEPTHS. It's one of the reasons I was playing it for a while, because Delver's been good for a while. Alright, we're 1-0. Let's go to round 2. Okay, we're on the play for round 2. Our hand doesn't have access to a Dark Depths, so we're going to mulligan this one. This hand also does not have access to a Dark Depths, so we're going to mulligan it. This one does have access to a Dark Depths, so we can keep this one. So what are we looking to keep here? I don't think we need these Lotus Petals. I think I'd rather just make land drops at this point. Right, let's play. I think we play out this forest. Reason being, we look like Cloud Post here, so our opponent's going to think they've got a bit more time. And we can always cycle this into something else anyway. We would need 2 draws for it to matter that we played the Swamp first. We need to draw into Dark Depths and then Hexmage, I guess. We need an Urborg somewhere in there. I don't know. We'll see. Scalding Tarn. What flavour of Scalding Tarn deck is our opponent? Who knows? Alright, we don't need to fire off the scrap rotation yet. We don't know what we need. Whether we need the Dark Depths or the Thespian stage. But the reason you look for access to Dark Depths is that you have way more access to the other pieces. Because there's 8 pieces plus all the tutors. Whereas the Dark Depths has only got 4 copies plus the tutors. Alright, Beanstalk. So we're looking at possibly a bank control list. Sorry, they were a Yorion deck. Should have mentioned that at the start. So this is what I describe as our worst matchup, probably. I don't know, lands is also terrible too. So I'm not expecting this to go well for us. I think we'll leave this Lotus Petal in hand. I think our cards in hand are scarier than a Lotus Petal on the board, especially when they're a Prismatic Ending deck and can just blow it up. Yeah, this hand isn't really panning out, which is unfortunate. But we will get to test the Life from a Loam plan here. But this matchup is horrible for many reasons. So Uro puts them above 20 life, so it takes us 2 hits to kill them. Teferi can bounce our guy, and because they don't have 20 life, they have more than 20 life, that's really bad for us. Can we crop rotate into anything that will stop this from ruining our day? No. Yeah, so Teferi also makes their Prismatic Endings even better than Swords to Plowshares against us. It's just horrible. And they obviously have Plows as well and counter spells. It's just a rough one for us. Sejiri Steppe. Alright. We've not got anything going on here. Our opponent's got the Monarch. We are losing this game. Now, our hand has been very poor and we've drawn quite poorly. Maybe we were supposed to mulligan more heavily. But we'd already mulliganed a little bit and was a little bit reluctant to go any lower. We have plenty of decent draws. You're running 8 shooters as well as 8 payoffs. Well, actually 12 payoffs at this point, right? Because we don't need the non-dart depths. We just need any half of our combo. It could be any part, and then the crop rotation can find the other bit. So that's what? 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 cards that would have set us up for a combo. But now our opponent's drawing too many cards. It's probably going to be too late. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Yep. Our opponent's going to be like full grip for this whole game. Okay, so we have a crop rotation. Something. We can try and fire that off in a minute. Island cycling, sure. Our opponent can probably work out more or less what we're doing here from the permanents we have in play. Because we don't look like a Cloudpost deck because we've got this Swamp and this Bayou. Mystic Sanctuary, what is this going to pick up? The 4th Eolingus, probably. Yeah. Just going to try and get us dead here. Maybe if they tap out to just do a big 4th Eolingus. I don't know why they would do that. But they could do. It's a Ferry Time Ravel. Okay, so this is our time to cast some crop rotations. Let's get ourselves a Dark Depths. Let's crop rotate here. Get ourselves a Thespian stage. And now their Teferi can resolve. What are they bouncing here? Their own Beanstalk. Interesting. There it is. I believe they haven't played a land yet this turn. No, they played Volcanic Island this turn, I believe. Yeah, they played Volcanic Island, so... Did they play Volcanic Island? Or was it the Mystic Sanctuary? Okay. I don't really like what's happening here. Why are we just making our guy? Is that going to be fine here? They got Solitude. It's very good without the Beanstalk, so it wouldn't surprise me. If they concede before they draw this card, it means they're not running Solitude. Okay. They're not conceding before they run that card. They do have the Solitude. And we are in trouble. That's why. Okay. We get to gain ourselves some life. But now we need to find life from Loam. That's our only route to potential victory. And it's not looking great because our opponent is drawing maybe 3 cards a turn at this point. Vampire Hexmage. What does this do? It allows us to... do we want this? I'm just trying to work out if we need the mana from the Sejiri Steppe or not. Sure. I think we need the mana for this because we're going to play... Are we playing the Hexmage? Hexmage blocks this, but then I think we... No, I don't think we play the Hexmage. I think we do want the mana from the Sejiri Steppe though, because this is just a good land that we can sacrifice to a crop rotation. Our opponent should be able to win this game very easily. Krakenflow Strand. They have a 4th Eolingus that we know about in hand. Oh, no, they discarded that at the end of the last turn. Sure. So they're putting it back on top. So if they fire off a big 4th Eolingus, they can bash us for like 10 this turn. And then next turn, they can bash us for 20. So that's still not lethal. That's if they just play another 4th Eolingus max, where X is the biggest it could be. So if we play a Vampire Hexmage out here, it's just going to plow or whatever. I don't think we're going to win this game, but we can have a little bit more information about what our opponent's doing. The Solitude is a little bit unusual, but not massively out there. Okay, a Thespian stage. Alright. So we have only got one more turn cycle to go through before this game is done either way, so might as well play it out to the bitter end. So we're going to find a load of boys coming at us here. The best fireball ever printed. 4th Eolingus. Yep, so now they're drawing some extra cards with the Beanstalk. They're making a bunch of guys. They're going to draw some more cards at the end of turn as well. It's going pretty swimmingly for them. So this is going to put us to 4. So nothing we have really works here anyway. Alright, so that was pretty crushing. What would we like to do to change that up? I would like a Knot of this World. I would like some Duresses here. I kind of want Surgical for their Uros, but also we can get rid of all their Plows or all their Solitudes, as well as protecting our own Marit Lage. Because if they bring in their own Surgicals and target our Dark Depths, we're in trouble. So I don't think we want the Pithing Needles here. The plan is to Life from Loam instead. Now their deck sometimes does play Wasteland, and that is just something we're going to have to deal with. I don't think we want to trim any lands here. This game's going to be a little bit slower, so you can probably trim these Petals. Maybe we'll keep in one Needle here. Or do we want to keep in one Abrupt Decay in case they have something weird that we want to answer? No, I think it's probably... They can't be playing Blood Moons and stuff. So we'll play one Pithing Needle in that slot instead of the Petals. So we're setting into a slightly slower pace of game, which makes sense given our opponent's deck is designed to slow the game down and then smash you once it's all slowed. Alright, this one certainly does some stuff. We can keep this. We can Thoughtseize into Dark Depths, and maybe that'll be quick enough to get in underneath our opponent. We also get to Thoughtseize before they have a chance to brainstorm and hide anything. So let's see. So what do we do here? I think we take out the... Yikes. I have to take out the Solitude, I think. We can play around the Force of Negation a little bit by doing the crop rotation in our opponent's upkeep. So they can't Force of Negation us. Means you kind of have to wait a turn though, which could be a disaster, who knows. A Thespian's Stage. We can't play out this Hexmage. Do we play out this Bayou so that we can crop rotate in response if we have to? I think so. So we can crop rotate in our opponent's turn and then play this Hexmage. Just drop. I like to extract your Solitudes here. We could have paid some mana here, but I'd rather have mana up in case there's some sort of Flusterstorm or whatever. This is more just to peek at our opponent's hand before we cast our crop rotation. A Brainstorm, you say? Okay. So they're going to take this free shuffle off the Brainstorm. Right, so we've got Solitude here. They don't have Plows. They just have Leyline Bindings. Interesting. Okay. This is our only green source, which is awkward. But we've got to play to what we have. So Leyline Binding costs 6, 5, 4, 3. So they can definitely cast it. However, if we play this, we can Duress away this Leyline Binding. They have to Force of Negation here. Force of Negation, pitching Lorien Revealed, sure. And then I think we will jam down our little Vampire Hexmage. We can always get some little damage in. That way we can try and keep above their... Or I didn't actually check to see if they had Uro when we looked in their deck. I just assumed that they did. Because it's like the best blue green card ever. So. Right, so we have to beat Leyline Binding. Now, there's definitely ways we can beat Leyline Binding. We can have a crop rotation, or we can discard from their hand. If they tap low enough, so they can't Leyline Binding, then we will obviously go for it. The plateau there. So they have 2 white sources. They have 4 types here, right? Blue, green, white, red. So Leyline Binding costs 2 mana. So they can cast a Ponder or something here. Okay. Prismatic Ending. What? What are they doing? Have I misread Leyline Binding? Leyline Binding costs 1 less to cast for each basic land type among lands you control. So this costs 4 less, so it costs 2 mana, which means the card they have in hand is Prismatic Ending. That's what makes this make sense. What do I think is more likely to draw? One of our remaining... They can't have another Prismatic Ending, surely. I guess we didn't see their hand with the Brainstorm. They must have another Prismatic Ending. That's what makes sense here. It costs 1 less to cast for each basic land type. So it costs 6. 5, 4. 3, 2. Oh, I've got my Urborg. Oh, yes. That's what's happened here. Ignore me. Sure. Yeah. Whoops. Boom. Always had it. Wowzers trousers. My opponent can't be happy about that. Volcanic Island. What have you got, opponent? There's a Minsc Boo. This is not good enough, I don't believe. I think if we had a green source, we should have let the Leyline Binding hit our Dark Depths. But because we didn't, maybe that was wrong. It's going to work out for us, but I think that might have been a mistake. If we had a green source, then that puts us live for drawing the Loam. So, alright. I think I'm still happy with how this looks, and we're just going to go back in again. Probably should have taken a screenshot of their deck when I surgicaled it. That would have been a smart thing to do. But I don't like you lovely viewers having to put up with me flicking backwards and forwards between screenshots and things. Surgicals actually seem pretty good there as well. Like, the information about their hand was really important, as well as making sure they didn't have a free piece of removal they could draw in their deck. It is card disadvantage, obviously, but it means we don't have to worry about one aspect, which is nice. Well, I guess this is a tester for the Life of Malone plan, so we're going to try it. This hand isn't amazing at all, but it's got the thing we want to test in it, and it seems fine, considering what our opponent's playing. We want the Life of Malone to just keep rebuying what we're doing. Okay, so we have our one of Pithing Needle. Is that what we actually want to do here, though? I do still think we want Wasteland, but kind of Teferi is a real thing as well. No, I think we're just going to name the Wasteland and say no to that when we can. If I took a closer look at their deck list when we Sage called them in the previous game, it would have been a little better. Have they not hit a land there? Interesting. Very interesting. Let's play this. Let's cast this spell. Sylvan Scrying. Go and get ourselves a Dark Depths. There is definitely a part of me that wants to just get a Ghost Quarter and see if we can just remove all of our opponent's lands from the game. That's definitely a thing we could do. I don't hate that. Seems a little over the top there. Let's just get the Dark Depths. Maybe that's the way we're supposed to go here, I'm not sure. We can crop rotate for it though. Right, they found a second land. Alpine Moon enters the battlefield. Choose a non-basic land card. Name your opponent's control. Lose all of the abilities. Okay. Lose all land types and abilities. They gain. Okay. So Dark Depth doesn't do what it says anymore. Interesting. So we will need to blow this up with a Boseiju at some point. So I think that does change what our plan is here. So we crop rotate away this Boseiju. We go and get ourselves a Ghost Quarter. We're going to cast Life of Malone here. I'm just trying to work out if we want to play a land first or not. If we play a land first, then we can get this Ghost Quarter up and running. So this will tap for all colours. And it comes in with no counters now. So let's cancel that. Let's get rid of this. And then we're going to Life of Malone back our 2 lands. We're into a different plan now. They're going to have a basic island. Are they going to have any other basics though? Let's try Life of Malone here. We should have gone to second main really, but... Alright, in our opponent's upkeep, I think I'm going to extract their tropical islands. Because we have 3 surgical extractions. And if we're on the mana denial plan, you know, that's something. Also, we can Boseiju this at instant speed. And really go to town on our opponent here. This is not how I intended to play this game of Magic the Gathering, but here we are. So let's take a closer look at what our opponent's got going on over here. So they have a Solitude. That's not great for us. They got Force of Will in hand as well. Okay, so we've got these. What are we looking at here? They've got one more Alpine Moon. Got the endings, the One Ring, up the Beanstalk. Sure. Trying to take a closer look here. They do have the 2 Wastelands, but they don't have Uro, which is actually a huge boon to us. Alright. Do I want to dredge Life of Loam? Yes, I do. So we now know how many basics our opponent has in their deck. So if we get rid of this plateau, it will get them a plains. We'll go and get ourselves these lands back. Is this worth Force of Willing, opponent? That is the question you have to ask yourself. And we'll pass. They don't have another plateau in their deck. They don't have Life of Malone in their deck. Yes, I did take a screenshot this time. A Ponder, sure. These are the only basics they have in their deck, so we're going to be in Strip Mine mode now. There's a Flooded Strand. Force of Negation is what they really want, to be honest. But up the Beanstalk. We're playing a weird game. So we can Ghost Quarter away this Savannah. We could just Boseiju away their Alpine Moon. Force this Solitude out of their hand. Go again, but until we get a Thespian stage in our graveyard, that's not really what I want to do. Force of Will, pitching Teferi, Time Raveler. Understood. Draws Macabre without the Beanstalk. If we can get a Thespian stage in the graveyard, then I'm more than happy to do this, work through their Solitude with our surgical extractions and just redeploying it like we said early on when we were like, oh yeah, we've got this Life of Malone as our protection against removal because we can just keep representing the combo. So we're kind of just milling until we hit that. They shuffle their library. Did they find a land? It's been a long time since I've Ghost Quartered someone out of a game. If I can do it, that'll make me really happy. Which is a weird thing to say. Yes, I'd like to dredge Life of Loam. I'm going to pop our Graveyard out now. So let's target our Ghost Quarter, our Urborg, and our Verdant Catacombs. Play Ghost Quarter. Let's get rid of their ability to play blue spells. Let's pass the turn. We've got 7 cards in hand. Right, they're on going to clean up. Veil of Summer. Yes, I'll Dredge Life from the Loam. Let's get our Ghost Quarter. So this is a situation where if we had our Thespian stage, we'd be in a great position. Or our Exploration as well would be really nice. Right, we'll go clean up. I guess we'll get rid of Verdant Catacombs and Bojuka Bog. Right, no play from our opponent there. Are we Dredging Life from the Loam this turn? We are not. Look at that. So this is exactly what we're after here. We go to our opponent's end step. We Boseiju away their Alpine Moon. This will get them a land, because this is a land with a basic type. Yep, so there's a Tundra. So we know they've got Solitude in hand. Surprised they didn't just kill this now to save themselves having to... Okay, so we'll dredge this. Cast Life from Loam on Ghost Quarter, Dark Depths, and Bojuka Bog. A Brainstorm. Okay. They're looking for a Force of Negation here. Right, so we're in here. Okay, let's Ghost Quarter. Smash this Tundra. We won't get any lands here. We're going to attacks. We're going to gain 20 life when they pitch something to their Solitude. Leyline Binding, sure. Makes sense. In our opponent's draw step, we're going to get rid of this Solitude. Oh, we need to go to clean up, don't we? We'll get rid of Bojuka Bog. Opponent's draw step. Let's hit their Solitude here. Solitude in hand. Tiger in hand. And Wasteland as well. Leyline Binding. Sure. We don't need to hit the Tundra or anything. Okay, so they're playing out the Wasteland. Alright, they're scooping up because we ground them down. So the Leyline plan kind of, the sort of Life of the Loam plan kind of works, but not as we intended. It's not intended to be us destroying all of our opponent's opponents so they don't get to play the game. But our opponent missed a land drop and we just took that window and just ran with it. Their build wasn't running Uro, which certainly helped us out. But this turn we get to play our Dark Depths and then we can combo them. So that's why they've given up there. Yeah, that was a pretty impressive victory, I thought. Bit of a weird one. But yeah, we are 2-0. Let's go to round 3. We're on the play here. We don't have access to a 2020 here. I think we can mulligan this one. Yeah, sign me up for this one. We'll keep this. We'll probably throw back the... I think it's the Bayou here. Keep an unwastable green. So I can get us back into it with the Sylvan Scrying if that's the thing we need to do. So we can lead off with a Thoughtseize. And then we can play it by ear from that point. Let's hope this Thoughtseize doesn't help our opponent out. This is the best one to play first. It means if we can draw a Hexmage, we can just go. Fable and Mirror Breaker, Red Elemental Blast, Lotus Petal. None of these really impact us in a meaningful way. This looks like a painter deck. So, are we supposed to go for Fable here? Or the Lotus Petal? And just slow them down a bunch. I think we're just going to slow them down a bunch. I quite like the painter matchup for TURBODEPTHS, generally speaking. There's the Bloodstained Mire. The finer 1-drop could be like a Goblin Welder. Soul Guide Lantern. Sure. That's just going to be a redraw for them at some point. Pithing Needle. We put this on. What do we put this on? Do you want to stop them getting a redraw here? Is that the most important thing? Or do you just want to turn off these Heirs of Saga? The Heirs of Saga doesn't matter because we're going to kill them before they ever get to make a token with it. So maybe it is just a Soul Guide Lantern here. What else could they have? Welder's not going to be good enough on the time frame we're working on. I guess they could play a Welder this turn. I guess, no, they could play a Goblin Engineer this turn. Yeah, I think it's Goblin Engineer. And then that stops them from getting a... what's it called? And a Snaring Bridge and hiding behind it. Now we have a Sylvan Scrying that we can use for that anyway. But we're going to be losing a bunch of our lands to try and make this happen. The reason I say Goblin Engineer rather than Goblin Welder is because Goblin Engineer will find the piece as well as be able to reanimate it. There's a Saga. They must do something's up if we are not dealing with their Saga here. Right, so we turn this into a Thespian stage. We make a 2020, we kill them. They never get to shoot anything out of their Saga. They should be drawing a card with the Soul Guide Lantern here. And Orcish Bowmasters, we don't care about that. And we know all the cards in their hand now. Do we think our opponent's playing Opposition Agent? There's no room for it in a painted. I've never seen it in a painted deck. If they get us with it, then, well, that's annoying. But I've never seen it in a painter list. Not in a red painted list, anyway. There's the other side. They have one mystery card in hand. I'd like to see them play something. Jam is Fair the Mirror Breaker. Or is their plan to gain life with an Urza Saga attack? It's not going to matter because we're going to make 20/20 and kill them. Yep, we'll take our 2 damage here. Just don't want to open ourselves up to some weird sorcery speed shenanigans. So there's going to be the Fable. Yep, and then we're just going to kill them. We could have done this in a different way, actually, that was slightly cleaner. We could have tapped both of these for mana and then sacrificed the Urborg. Because we already have a black source in hand, then we'd have a forest and a swamp. Like, it shouldn't matter. Our opponent's tapped out. They're not a deck that gets to interact for free on a board like this. But I think that would have been slightly cleaner. Alright, that was relatively straightforward. So, we have a lot for this matchup. We have Null Rods if we want them. We have Abrupt Decays if we want them. We have Collector Ouphes. We have Pithing Needle. Things I'm not... We also have Surgical Extraction, which is not nothing. But things I'm not really interested in this matchup. I'm not actually a big fan of like the Thoughtseize Duress plan, and I don't really think we need Not of This World. We just board into Blaze of blowing their stuff up and ways of disrupting the combo that way. And that seems fine to me. We're going to submit like this. We do have what some might describe as a complete nombo here. But we also don't really get to play our spells, so this is a mulligan, I would say. Alright, this one seems fine. We can keep this. We're probably just getting rid of the Life from Loam here. Our graveyard is probably... We probably should be boarding out the Life from Loams here because our opponent's going to be able to mess with us relatively well in terms of our graveyard if they kept that side of things in. So, what is the play here? If we play Yavimaya, it allows us to go into Sylvan Scrying next turn. So, I think we play this on Grindstone. Now, they can just play a Painted Servant and Red Blast this Pithing Needle. So I think if they play a Painter here, we probably just... Yeah, so we're probably going to have to Abrupt Decay this Painter. This is uncounterable, so we don't have to worry about that. So I have Mesa from our opponent. We can Sylvan Scrying for a Dark Depths next turn. And then we can try and win the game however we see fit. We've got both combo pieces, so whatever they Pithing Needle will be wrong. Let's get our Dark Depths here. And I think I want to play out the Thespian stage rather than the Dark Depths. Because if our opponent plays a Blood Moon, we can use that as an enabler. So they're going to make a token. Then they're going to go and get a Pithing Needle, probably naming Thespian stage. That's my guess here. Yeah. And we'd rather have our Thespian stage needle than our Hexmage. Boseiju who endures. That's interesting. That makes me think that they're going to play an Ensnaring Bridge this turn. A Blood Moon. Alright. That's certainly on the awkward side. That might be enough to win this game. Pithing Needle. It's not really helping us right now, is it? So we play this one. Yeah, we're just going to get beaten down for a few turns. We need to find Forest, Swamp, and Abrupt Decay here. A Welder. Sure. That can bring back the Painted Servants. They can do Pyroblast shenanigans. Alright, we need to draw exactly 2 cards. Actually, that's not true. If we just draw a Forest in our next draw, then we can tutor up our Swamp. And then we'll be okay-ish. We could have played Pithing Needle on Welder. That was a bit loose, not doing that. It's going to turn their Pyroblasts on, which is not perfect for us. Suffice to say. Oh my god, we're doing it. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. It's going to happen. It's going to Swamp here. Alright. We don't get to do that, sure. Here's on Goblin Welder. Actually, I think we have to name Grindstone again. Rather than the Welder here. I think that's enough for them to win the game now, right? Because if we'd have named Welder before so they couldn't get Painter in, we would have won this game. There's another Grindstone. Yep, so this is 5, 6, 7, and then when we make our guy, it's not good enough. Not that we could make the guy now because they countered our thing. But we could have stopped that if we'd have Pithing Needle with the Welder so they couldn't get the Painter into play. Yeah. Yeah, we punted that one a little bit there. We just passed our turn not playing that Needle out on Welder. That would have been the game. So I'm pretty happy with our sideboarding here. We're just going to go back in it, I think. So the plan to beat Blood Moon is just to go underneath it most of the time. What does our hand do? I'm going to get a basic here. We can shoot for all our pieces. Yeah, we'll keep this. Get ourselves a forest. Play this. And grindstone. This saves us from the scariest thing. We can Ghost Quarter an Urza Saga if that's the thing we feel like we need to do. Lotus Petal. This is be Blood Moon. Fable and Mirrorbreaker. Sure, that's slow for the pace that we're trying to take this game at. Stage. It's just Sylvan Scrying for Dark Depths here. Next time we play Dark Depths, crop rotate into Yavimaya, make 20/20, kill them. We haven't even drawn our like Null Rods and stuff, which would be pretty brutal here. I think we probably should have taken our Life of the Loams out on this matchup though. Probably have some Duresses in instead. Yep, so they're going to bash us for 2 here. It's going to give them access to coloured mana that they are currently wanting. We're going to follow this up with another play. A Painter's Servant, you say? That's a pretty good one. Turn on their Pyroblasts. Interesting. How are we supposed to navigate the Pyroblast in our opponent's hand? Now we'll see if our opponent taps out and see if we get a slot to do something here. Alternatively, just try and Pyroblast our land, we can always crop rotate it. If we cast Pyroblast, if we cast crop rotation into Pyroblast, we have to sacrifice our forest, and that's bad news for us. We will need to go in response to this Urza Saga though. Unless we just want to blow this Urza Saga up with our Ghost Quarter. So we could Ghost Quarter this away so we don't have to worry about Pithing Needle. We do have the Life and Loam to rebuy this plan actually. So I don't hate this. We're going to see a big boy here. Pyroblast is going to be an absolute shiving here. Trying to work out how we beat it. So I'm going to copy this construct. Maybe the thing is we're not supposed to play around the Pyroblast there. We do have to go now. We are exposing ourselves to Blood Moon. Pyroblast, yep. So this is lethal and we die. Yep, so we lost that one because we punted the second game by not playing our Pithing Needle. We had that game if we played the Pithing Needle. Oh, that's so frustrating. But again, that's on me. We should have won that one. Let's go to round 4. Alright, so we have a turn 3 2020 with Not of This World backup. And if that doesn't work, for some reason, we do still have a Thespian stage. So we're halfway towards going again. Once upon a time from our opponent. I revealed a Windswept Teeth and played a Delighted Halfling. Cradle Control. I think we fire out this Urborg. We only care about one of these cards. Over to your opponent. Cradle Control is generally pretty good for the old Green-Black Turbodepths. Quirion Ranger. You know all your spells are going to resolve, which is always nice. There's Windswept Teeth. I'm going to see the Bowmasters. Yep. That's A-okay with me. Sylvan Scrying. Get ourselves a Dark Depths. Cradle Ouphe being in their hand means they can't just snag a natural order and just completely kill us. Another Bowmasters. Short. And do some more damage to us, but it's irrelevant. 2 cards in hand. We're about to Duress them and make a 20/20. Atraxa. Alright, natural order is not going to do them much good here. They might have a Wasteland in their deck. So we're going to make our 20/20 now. We do have protection from it in the form of this Not of This World. What now, opponent? Nothing. Alright. Simples. Let's work out what we want for this matchup. I think this is just the Abrupt Decays in, although they did show us white, so we have to consider the possibility of Swords to Plowshares. I think we're going to try getting rid of the Pithing Needles because we already have the Life from the Loams here. And Duresses are pretty bad against their creature-heavy deck, so we get in this Not of This World, and that's quite a clean 5 in, I would say there. Now, we could definitely get some things like... So Duress can hit Natural Order, which is definitely a thing that can be a problem for us. But if we can just take out the creatures to stop that from happening in the first place, I think that's probably better for the most part. We're going to rock it like this. I'm more reluctant to keep our lands in and not sideboard them out in this build because we have the Expiration. Maybe that's wrong, but we'll testing and seeing how it fits. So I did board out some in one round and not have a lot of land, so maybe that's also colouring my view on it. This opening hand looks pretty great. The Yavimaya not being an Urborg is a little bit annoying because it means we don't get to go Thoughtseize on turn 1. I suppose we have the crop rotation, right? So we could play out the Bayou to Thoughtseize on turn 1. Turn 2, Yavimaya. Turn 3, Dark Depths. Rotate the Bayou into think, yeah, we can kind of have our cake and eat it here. We can interact on the first 2 turns and then kill them on the third. Or make a 20/20 on the third. Killing them and making a 20/20 are not the same thing. Right, opponents on the play. Let's see what they go for. I'm assuming it's going to be turn 1, green source, mana dork. Oh no, it's a Thoughtseize. So we'll probably lose either the Thoughtseize or the Crop Rot, I would imagine. That does change the way we need to play this game. Yep, we took the Thoughtseize. So we have no reason to play the Bayou now, unless we draw another Thoughtseize. Just play out the Yavimaya. So that does slow down our opponent's curve. And also, we just have our combo in hand. And they can't actually interfere with our lands using Thoughtseizes. So that's pretty tasty for us. Another Thoughtseize. Sure. We can take our Crop Rot or our Abrupt Decay. A Pithing Needle, you say. So this is going to name Thespian stage. Which is a little bit irritating. But we have Abrupt Decays and stuff in our deck. I think I'll play out this Lotus Petal. And I'll play out this Thespian stage. So we're looking for either a Vampire Hexmage or one of our 2 Boseijus or one of our 4 Sylvan Scryings. Elvish Reclaimer. That's a pretty good one. That can really mess with us in an annoying fashion. Not of this world. Okay, that's not unhelpful. Play our Bayou and carry on. I don't know how many wastelands our opponent's running, if any. These decks tend to ebb and flow between how many they run. I played against one at European Legacy Masters. Actually, no, it was the 4 Seasons event the day after. And they hadn't got any wastelands in their deck. Come on, one of our many payoffs. That's not one of our many payoffs, is it? Sure. We are now manually removing counters from our Dark Depths. Understood. So they're going to Reclaimer. They can go and get themselves a Caracas. Or, okay, they're getting Cradle. That's interesting. We could try and bop that if we want to with a Ghost Quarter. But I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. Does stop potential natural orders coming into play. Green Sun's Zenith for 1. What is this going to be? Just another Reclaimer. Creon Ranger. Okay. So they untap. And then they can create a Hoof if they want to. Oh, they get to replay the Cradle here as well. Because it's a forest. Sure. Endurance. I don't think they're going to tag us because we will actively want this Abrupt Decay in our deck. Yeah. Right, I didn't have a Crate Hoof. Was Crate Hoof lethal then? They'd have 4 creatures. 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, that would have been lethal if they had Crate Hoof. So I didn't have one. Removing these counters is not going to be a good way to win the game. An Abrupt Decay. So, 2 mana for Abrupt Decay, and then the others get it done. All right, that works for me. Yeah, I think that's what would have killed us last turn. So they didn't have it last turn. Sure, Fiend Artisan, that is not that scary. We're going to kill our opponent any second now. Well, unless they have got the thing that gets us here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure, I'll just take this. Could try and block, but I don't think we win this game by. Alright, so we target this. We go green, black, goodbye, Pithing Needle. Target this. Make a 20/20. They know we have the Sejiri Steppe, which is why they attack with Endurance. Let's give us protection from green in case they have another Endurance. But they also know we have the crop rotation, so. Alright, so we got the match. This is the matchup that I am more than happy to play against. Some of them don't have Caracas anymore, or Wasteland, so it's just pretty good. Your spells resolve. They're relatively slow. It's only if they go like... So they went for like a Thoughtseize style hand here, is what they opened up, which we can quite often ignore. It's the hands where they go like mana dork, natural order you. Those are the hands that I'm actually scared of, because we are like a turn 3 combo deck, basically. And if they can race that, then that's where I'm worried. All right, so we are 3-1. The only one round we lost is because we didn't play a Pithing Needle. So that's going to bother me forever. Let's go to the final round and see if we can get the 4-1. All right, this hand seems capable to me. Let's go for an Urborg into a Pithing Needle. Same Wasteland and pass. I think I played this opponent recently. Can't remember what they're on. Okay, a blue deck of some description. I think that means we're not supposed to just jam here. If our opponent gives us an opportunity, maybe I will jam, but we'll see. Are they the high tide player I was playing against the other day? I don't know, whenever I see just a snow-covered island on turn 1, it makes me think high tide. Don't know why. Brainstorm. An end of turn brainstorm on turn 1. Interesting. Interesting. Let's go for a Hexmage here. If we play the Thespian stage second, we could have done the Uncounterable 2020. Where if they're playing high tide, they're probably going to have things like Snap. Omen of the Sea. I don't see that every day. It's interesting. What shenanigans is our opponent up to, I wonder? It's good enough for a counter spell? It is. Force of Will pitching Mystical Teachings. Right, well, our opponent's definitely doing something on the unfair spectrum. Maybe perhaps Thespian stage. This is one I'm okay to turn into something else with a crop rotation if it's required. Ponder from our opponent. So I think next turn is the go turn for our opponent. Just got that feeling in my bones. So the fact that we have less discard now is going to be problematic in this matchup. Should play out our Dark Depths. The writing is on the wall, opponent. So we can protect it with a Sejiri Steppe. Another Omen of the Sea. This is an interesting one. So if you're unfamiliar with Omen of the Sea, 2 mana, flash, scry 2, draw a card, and then you can pay 3 and sack it to scry 2. Not something that sees a lot of play, but our opponent must be doing something with the... Must be doing something suspicious with it. 3 mana. Show and tell. Interesting. I guess so. Put another Thespian stage here. Omniscience. Sure. So they're going to play an Emrakul now, because that will kill us. A Brainstorm. Sure. Omen of the Sea. And getting deeper. This is probably just going to scry those 2 cards away they put on top. And draw them a fresh one. Yep, 2 bottom, drawn a fresh one. A Ponder as well. Okay. They're trying to dodge Emrakul and Intuition here. They shuffle their library. Playing Seat of the Synod. Right, this is a read for me. Farsight Ritual. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. If the spell's bargain, look at the top 8 cards of your library instead. Put 2 of them in your hand. That's why they're playing the Omens of the Sea, because they need something to bargain. Understood. And that's why they're playing the Seat of the Synod as well. Alright, looks pretty cool. Going to cast an Emrakul? They are going to cast an Emrakul. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We lose 3 permanent. We lose 2 permanents. So that's not going to cut it for us. That is going to be game over. Interesting build. Like what our opponent's doing over there. So, what do we want to do about this? I would like to Duress and probably extract my opponent here. The Null Rod doesn't seem great, but I don't mind they're not of this world potentially. I don't think this is one of our Life Malone matchups. They are a combo deck, so probably want to be going faster. They don't really have much on a Pithing Needle though, so this looks where I'm at. Back to basics is something that they could very much have here. I think we're better off just trying to race that and get them... We do have like Boseiju to break out of that anyway. This is our plan. Ordinarily, we'd have, like in the previous builds of this, when we weren't trying out the exploration stuff, we'd have 10 discard spells sometimes post-board. But we have less now. So we've got 8 post-board instead of the 8 main and 2 in the side. So maybe that'll come back to bite us. Who knows? This hand doesn't win the game for us. We cannot. This one is a great hand. We'll keep this. I think we throw back this Ghost Quarter. Leyline of Sanctity, pretty annoying for us. Truth be told. Let's play an Urborg, and let's pass. I don't believe they're going to turn 1. They don't feel like they're a turn 1 show and tell deck. Sylvan Scrying. Okay. Can play this out first. They can't Fluster Storm this anyway. Black, black. Let's try and make the guy. I'm guessing this is going to eat a Force of Will. A Brainstorm. Maybe they don't have a Force of Will. Yeah, Leyline of Sanctity is pretty brutal against us in some of these combo matchups, to be honest. We are relying on discard. Alright, let's scoop it up because we make the turn 2 2020. And they know what's on top of their library. Do you want to do anything differently? I don't think so. Let's just go back in. Taking it in turns to wombo each other. But they're on the play for the final game. They are favoured, I would say. But they do need to find... They are basically a 3-card combo deck, right? They need to go Show and Tell, Omniscience, and... Yeah, Show and Tell, Omniscience, and Emrakul. Because if they just Show and Tell, we might be able to put in our combo and just kill them. This hand is not great. This hand is pretty good. We'll chuck that one of these. And so we're done. Okay, Leyline of Sanctity. Understood, opponent. Prismatic Vista. Okay, so I'll play out this Dark Depths and I'll play out this Lotus Petal. This way, if our opponent show and tells in just an Emrakul, we can make a 20/20 and they'll have to chump block with their Emrakul. Ponder. I'm curious if our opponents brought in any bounce effects. The way they were digging in the previous game made me think they must have been. Exploration. That's not a spell we're going to cast here. So I'm going to cast this into a counter spell. They're going to counter spell this. We're going to untap. We're going to play the Thespian stage. We're going to have a good time. That's the plan anyway. Pitch to Flusterstorm, which isn't great against us. So we could play this Exploration and then play out our 2 lands, but it doesn't actually get us anywhere. So we just leave that as a surprise in our hand. Oh, I wish we could Duress our opponent, but Leyline of Sanctity is scary. Okay, so we haven't seen Ancient Tombs yet. So maybe we're not getting... And we haven't seen Lotus Petal either, so maybe we're not getting Show and Tell this turn. Alright, so we got one more turn. A Crop Rotation. That is kind of handy. Sure. Now we know they're a Flusterstorm player, so we need to watch out for that. Oh, they had enough. So we got the 4-1, and the only loss this league was for me clicking through my turn and not playing a Pithing Needle when we should have done. If we'd have done that, we beat that Painter deck, and we would have had the trophy. So that's on me today. So this was a trophy run for the deck, but not for me. Let's actually talk about this deck. So, the new stuff we're trying, like the Exploration, we didn't cast Exploration this league. So that's kind of awkward. But what we did cast is Life from the Loam, and it single-handedly won us a game. And I think it was a draw that we could have had in other games that would have given us the win as well. So I think the Life from the Loam was actually quite a good showing there. I don't think the Exploration was bad at all. We just didn't really have it in our opening hand. And this is a card that you want in your opening hand, and then you don't really want to draw it. But it's very good in combination with the Life from the Loam as well. Is this enough testing to say whether it's good or not? No. I think the Life from the Loam has definitely shown it's something that I want to have access to. I think using it as a way of powering through removal is certainly relevant. And I think if we were against that control player and we didn't just waste that, Ghost Quarter them out of the game, we might have been able to just remove all of their removal, right? Now, Leyline Binding is a bit awkward because that card doesn't go to the graveyard when it kills your guy. So it's a hard one to extract. But being able to extract Solitudes, Prismatic Endings, and Plows is pretty important. And then you can just rebuy your combo and go again because they're not killing you quickly. Well, unless they smash a Minsc and Boo down your face, and then that'll do the job. I do like having a double Boseiju. I think that makes sense when we're trying to play Exploration to go up in lands. Yeah, I think I would like to test this list again and maybe try and get some hands with Exploration, because we've all played against a lands player who's gone turn 1, Exploration, play another land, turn 2, Dark Depths Thespian stage, kill you. Like, we've all been on the receiving end of that at some point playing Legacy. And that's a line that we have access to here, but we also have things to protect it. So we have our Hand Disruption, we have our Pithing Needles, we have our Not of This World. So the theory behind the exploration is very sound, and I would like to try it out and see how it feels. So we're probably going to be running this back at some point. But initial instincts are this list was pretty good. Like, do we need 3 Loams? Could we get away with 2? Maybe. I guess it doesn't really matter though, because once you start Loaming, it doesn't really matter if they're in your deck because they're just going in the bin. You're not going to really draw redundant copies. But you don't want to be swamped with them either. Like, it's not a thing that you always want in your hand. That's just why you're running 3. Same with the Exploration. You definitely don't want to draw 2 Exploration, whereas a second Loam is usually going to get dredged rather than drawn. But yeah, deck felt very solid today. I think I just do love this TURBODEPTHS. I'm very annoyed at myself for not playing that Pithing Needle on Welder in that Painter game. That's going to bug me for a long time, I imagine. Anyway, we got the 4-1. The deck felt smooth. I'm probably going to run it back again to get some more testing on it at some point. You know, this is my baby, and it's pretty important to get all these different testing and try new things out. This is something I've been wanting to test for a while, and initial look was pretty good. All right, I think we are done for today. If you'd like more information about this deck, by all means, check out my Patreon. I have my 2020 specialist tier, which has got a full guide to Green Black TURBODEPTHS that gets updated every month. So check that out. And I also write a regular article every month about a different sort of Dark Depths deck usually. So, you know, mono green, mono black, slow depths, whatever. So by all means, check out if that's a thing that interests you. And, you know, it helps me and supports the channel, and I really appreciate it. Speaking of supporting the channel, remember to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps me out. I'm on my way to 2,000 subs now. when I hit 2,000, I might give away a signed copy of my book, because my main life, I am a fantasy author. So if that's your jam, by all means, keep an eye out and see when that goes up for the giveaway. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy watching some Legacy. Goodbye.